It's Lester Martin, your dev advocate from Datavolo, powered by Apache NiFi. Hey, today I'm going to talk about Apache Iceberg. More specifically, I'm going to talk about a tutorial on DevCenter.datavolo.io. These are all links are available down in notes, but I got a tutorial here called Populate Iceberg table using Polaris catalog. This is a companion video to this tutorial. You can take it either direction. They both help each other out. So I'm going to focus on these tutorials, not a demo. I want you to be able to do these steps yourself, but a quick video version of that right here. Basically, this tutorial is assuming you know a little bit about Iceberg already and the catalogs such as Polaris that are out there, and that you have access to said catalog. I'm going to use Polaris catalog by Snowflake, and I'm also going to have a table that's sitting on S3. So you basically need permissions and accounts and that kind of stuff, either already existing or able to create those to make this tutorial to actually do it hands-on. Otherwise, maybe it's a good video to watch. And as it says at the bottom, when we talk about those various properties, I'll kind of give you a hint to where to look, see, and find such things. So this tutorial, simple use case is using bike ride data. This is from Blue Bikes out of Boston, kind of like an Uber concept, but bicycles, you've seen them, the stands. You pick your bike up and you ride around and you drop it off. So it's all the start, stop, locations and times, etc. And our general pipeline that we're trying to build is, go to the Blue Bike site from the downloads page, get some data, and then just do some prep stuff. It's a zip file, take it down to a CSV. And then what are we going to do? We're going to load those records into Iceberg table. We're going to use the Apache Parquet file format into that Iceberg table format. So we need a runtime. I happen to have one set up already over here. Awesome. And you need this flow file definition file. Grab it right here and upload it. Add it as a new process group. I already done that. And the notes just say, yeah, you need to have this. Let's see if we're there. Yep, we have that. There's a little bit of notes here. It mentions it a little bit later. Basically, the stuff on the right is that first part of the use case. Go get it ready to load, and then we'll focus on just the publishing and the writing into that Iceberg table. So let's turn the page here. Part of that template also went ahead and set up some parameters. So that's what it talks about here, opening the parameters. And you got a handful of settings here that you're going to have to set. Now, I did walk you through that back in the instructions, step by step. And told you what's going on, but high level, access to the writable bucket itself that the table's sitting behind, and then access to the catalog, the rest of the catalog here. Most of that is what that is, and then just some basic things like, what table name and that kind of stuff. It's defaulting to something like init test, so we'll change that here in just a minute to get something. And then start up. Ultimately, I've already set up the controllers services out there for you. So let's verify those have been started. Here they all are, and they are all enabled. Main one was this one that I already set up, the Polaris Iceberg catalog. And this is the one that's using those parameters. So we're going to set the parameters up first and then start the controller services. From there, it gets pretty easy, actually, to do the real work. So we'll take on to the next step. And it says, hey, why don't you run some of this flow so we can see some of that data. And to really make it useful, if you scroll down a little bit, I need a place to land the data. So let's go put Iceberg table processor on the canvas here. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit more readable. And we're going to drag whatever comes out of here, whatever it's called, limited set, and it is a limited set. My notes say I'm going to grab a small set of data. This data file that's on the right here that comes in and gets ready has about 1.6 million records. So I just basically run a query on that just to get a small subset. We'll look at that subset in just a moment. And then we want to, for testing purposes, mainly hang on to the successes and failures in case while we're kind of setting this up, there's something going on. We can at least see a little easier what just happened. All right, so to run all this, I need to kick this guy. I'll tell you on the right, just run it once, let it flow through the system. I'm going to refresh. Yeah, it's all queued up. I got a big file here. We could look at that, but I'll go ahead and run the query record that's going to trim it down. Again, 1.6 million records down to something a little smaller, only 13K. So let's just go look at the queue, and look at that particular flow file's content. And back in the use case, this is what it's saying: ride ID, start time, end time, what station, lat long, all that kind of good stuff, where you're a member or not. So it's just a bunch of CSV data. I scroll to the bottom, you'll see there's only 70 lines here, which means there's 70 minus 1 records, because the front top line is a header row that we're going to use to infer a schema. All right, so we have it all set up, and really what we need to do is take care of these last configuration issues that might be listed here. So there were a couple of them when I hovered over, and most of these I went ahead and set them up. But like I said, you can go back and look, and we talk about it in the lab a little more. There's a catalog. That's the one that's going to use those properties, make the actual connection to Polaris. Catalog, we need to use a writer. We're going to use the Parquet Iceberg writer. We're going to write it out in Apache Parquet format. And this one is really just saying, hey, what's coming into this? Well, as you saw, those are CSV records. So we use a CSV reader service. These are those reusable elements. Now the namespace, if we look back over here, we're going to notice, looks like on the next page. Yep. So this is all this. We got records. We saw them. Actually told you you can go look in the query one and see exactly what we did there. And we were on this step. We're going to use these values, like these are our parameters that you set up in the earlier step, step 3. So Iceberg namespace would be this one. Pound Iceberg, and it'll turn from red to blue once it sees it. Now, my notes say use Iceberg table, but let's just pick a different table name, and let's call it tutorial bikes, just to get a fresh, clean, easy table. Okay, our properties are all set. We apply it. It's turned to red, which means it actually could be run. So let's see what happens when we start this thing. See if it actually ends up in one or other of these other flows. Yay, it went to success. So we can go look at it, but that's just the same flow file. But let's go verify it actually made it. Now there's a couple different ways to query Polaris tables. You can use different tools. I got some other tools set up here, but I want to do it all in Snowflake. So what I'm going to do, make sure you see it in the notes here. Okay, we're happy. Got the one record. Oh, we can verify that the stuff made it to the S3 bucket. So here I am over in S3. That's our bucket, Snowflake Polaris. We set it up under Iceberg catalog. Development was the name of our schema there. So let's drill a little deeper into there. Develop, and then the table that I created just now was called tutorial bikes. So there's our path. And if you look in there, this is Iceberg, right? It's got a folder for the data, a folder for the metadata. So we're going to look in the data, and we have one small file. It's Parquet format, small because there's 69 records and those kinds of things. So that was the optional step. So if you have access to go see that, that's awesome. We could also see all that. Again, most of that information is going to come from your catalog. So I gave you that detail there. And then it says, let's query it. Now, to query the Polaris catalog's Iceberg table, what we'll need to do, if we're going to do that from the Snowflake tooling, and it all depends. This whole framework is built around many different query engines could work on this data set now, but let's read it from Snowflake. So basically there is some instructions I'll take you through here, but ultimately what you're doing is you're going to build some external tables pointing to that. I think I might have set that up already. Yep, I'm going to use a schema. This is Snowflake native, so I'm going to not make a native table. I'm going to make an external table in a Snowflake schema. So create me an Iceberg table called, let me not use all that. We use LM testing that you see there. We'll call it tutorial bikes, and these are the things that those instructions tell you have to set up to know about it. And then there we go. The table name is tutorial bikes. I'm going to call it tutorial bikes. Run that. And then we're going to take the word tutorial bikes and run a query on it and see if our X number of records actually didn't make it there. Let's see. There they are. 69 records. We said there were 70 minus 1. And really, the good news is that's it. We made it. We were able to, from a data ingestion pipeline, a data flow written in Datavolo, able to take whatever data you got from wherever location you got and easily plug that into our processor called put Iceberg table, and we were off and running, and we were able to save that data and then retrieve it and see it over here in Iceberg proper. Thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of our tutorials on DevCenter.